Debbie, did you want to share?
Hi everybody from Brisbane, Australia. I struggle with waking up, but I slowly work at it. I think I'm very still behind in a lot of ways. But I think I saw my first chemtrail plane Tuesday a week ago. I got off the train at 7:10 after completing a night shift, 7:10 in the morning, and I saw a white line in the air and thought, oh, that's interesting. And then when I walked up the hill, I saw a plane in the distance with two jets, like streams coming out the back, white, white trails. And thought, oh, that could be one of those planes. And I rode my bike home, and when I arrived home, I could see another, like a commercial jet in the air, a passenger jet, and there was no white trail coming out the back of that. So I think that could have been a chemtrail plane. And I told my stepdad, and I don't know, nobody seemed interested. And I told him about the Channel 7 news talking about the chaff. Say chaff or chaff? They announced on the news, the weather report, that they were spraying chaff in the air when they do military exercises. And I was saying to them that contributes to the bushfires, the aluminium and everything. And my stepdad didn't believe me. He says, oh, no. They used to do that back in the war, World War II or something. And so every time I bring something up, they sort of have a counter argument. And I really can't prove anything to anybody. It's just what I read um, and see in the, YouTube and everything. Then I was telling my daughter and her boyfriend, there might be some kind of alien invasion, like a mock alien invasion in the future. And they said, oh, no, they came up with some other counter argument. And so, yeah. What else?
Well, Debbie, I think you're
I
doing
had other
amazing.
things today. I can't think of it. Pardon?
I think you're doing amazingly well, because you're more aware of the average person out there.
Yeah.
And they all come up with different arguments, but you're more aware than the average person out there.
Yeah, and about the 1080 in New Zealand, I said to my daughter, oh, maybe we shouldn't buy food from New Zealand, because of the 1080. And then she said, oh, no, I looked up the 1080. You have to eat a kilo of it to be affected. Oh, okay. But I don't know. I came across something where it said you only need a little bit.
A kilo of the world's most poisonous toxin? Yeah, I think you just need a very small amount. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw in the documentary, it's like nothing. One of those carrot baits will kill any animal.
Yeah. So, so nobody I know wants to sort of join me. Go on.
It's like New Zealand is using 95% of the world's production of 1080. New Zealand's using 95% of the world's production of 1080. And in New Zealand, what I've read is that anything on 1080 is actually suppressed. So the public doesn't know anything about it. However, I belong to a couple of groups in New Zealand, and a couple of them are fishing groups. And so I just thought I'd see, how people would react. So I put on this woman, actually, she wrote a story. She was a fly fisher. So fly fishing is trout fishing in New Zealand, and how she actually really loved trout fishing in New Zealand from the mid 80s. And she'd go over to New Zealand and she'd fly fish, for 4, maybe 5, even 6 months. And she said the last couple of years, she's actually been cutting her visits short. And she said, don't bother going to New Zealand because you're going to be disappointed. And I know because we used to drive through New Zealand because we were like rebels and we used to drive around New Zealand in the 80s and 90s. And we would drive through rivers and streams and things. You could drive across the streams and rivers. And you'd see the brown trout jumping. And it's like, whoa, we'd catch that one. And she said, there's nothing. Because what drives the turbo are the insects, right? So they jump for the dragonflies and all those kind of things. And the trout would jump to get their, feed. And the trout in New Zealand is huge. And you've probably seen the May Henry coming from Raglan. There's beautiful rivers down there as well. And there's nothing left. And she said they couldn't even catch one trout. And I tell you, they're not the easiest fish to catch if you ever try catching, trout. And she just wrote right up about New Zealand and how sad it was that 1080 had destroyed everything in the rivers. And it's really, really hush-hush. So you're not going to get a really good response in New Zealand because people don't know. They've been dumbed down. They don't even know the real truth. And if you start, and the good thing about it is that she actually posted it because she's a journalist, so she posted it so people have to read it. And in today's world, majority of people are too lazy to read anything today. Right? They want it on video, they want to see it, they want to see it in real life, they won't read it. And she posted it and I read it, and I tell you what, it's basically what I know about New Zealand. I went hiking around New Zealand before I left 5 years ago. We were in the bush and the guy, when you take a group of people hiking, you actually have to have a few certificates like in how to revive people if they have difficulties with breathing and stuff like that. And we stood, kid you not, we're in South Auckland on Mount Stephen, just up from Bombay. And our guide said to us, listen. And we all stood there. There's about 25 of us. We all stood there. He goes, what can you hear? And we all said nothing. We just thought it was absolutely beautiful. And he said, you can't even hear any birds. And that's where I kind of woke up. There were no birds. There were no tweeting. There was nothing. Absolutely, the bush was absolutely dead. And that's what he said to us. And he said, what would you normally hear in the bush? And I thought, well, yeah, you'd usually hear, the wood pigeons, pecking and you hear the dunk, 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 the wood pigeons, and you hear the fantails, and there's all sorts of birds going for all the little bugs in the bush. There was absolutely nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. The bush was dead. And that was incredible to me. That's when I started to, really, really realize. So I started joining other hiking groups just to see, around Auckland, because Auckland is covered with rainforest and beaches. And I went hiking and there was nothing. There was no sounds of bird life. There was no sounds of anything in the bush. I couldn't imagine what it'd be like today.
Yes, that's pretty sad. Very sad. I was telling Kelsey's parents the other day, actually, on the phone about the 1080 problem or situation. And they couldn't believe it. They said it was so sad. And I was like, yeah, it's like a real horror movie, basically. It's like, there's so many movies where it's shown that the
It's a
government
genocide.
are lying to the people, and the people don't pay attention, and then eventually the few people that were paying attention had it right. And so that's kind of where we're at. We're seeing it on a big scale. We see everything that's taking place at the same time. We see the comparison to what does make sense, which really is what gives us the motivation to do things and to even come here in the first place. So we have the awareness to decide the adventure. And yeah, over there, Debbie, with yourself, these things, like when you talk to us about the 1080, or someone who understands how, awful the governments of the world are, those people, they'll listen to you. But people that don't want to hear it, then, you don't have to try to talk to them about how horrible the world is, because they don't want to hear it. They're just gonna fire it right back at you, like, no, I love my horrible world, and then you have to deal with that attitude. So you can try and have more fun with it, just like, just tell them, like, oh, I'm just practicing being like the sun shining. What have you been up to? Just like whatever comes up. You don't have to try and tell them the bad things. You can tell them about the good things. So like, oh, I just spoke to this plant, or just say I spoke to it, but I just watched this plant grow, and it was like the most beautiful thing, or oh, I felt the wind on my face. Do you know how wonderful the natural environment is? Do you support the natural environment that supports you? Yeah, so there's different angles you can play and have fun with it. Your awareness too. You don't have to try and prove things to people. You can ask them the question, kind of a more vague question about life or something, like, what do you think life is? I don't know. Yeah.
Why do you think you were born?
Yeah, why were you born?
There was somebody at work, and I was trying to tell him that I think the bushfires are deliberately lit. And I said, I'm getting really serious about it. I've been studying all these things. And he said, oh, he saw at the beach nearby here, they saw like a white barrel in the water with a red, like, square shape on it. And it shot out of the water and up into the air in seconds. So he actually saw some kind of alien spaceship or something. And so he brought that up, and but we had to go back to work. We had to continue our work, and but I haven't asked him more about it yet. But he and others actually saw something like a spaceship, and that's quite unusual. And I want to ask him more about it. Like, it was gone in seconds, he said. And I wonder, is that like they're allowing people to see that kind of thing to prepare them? It's like a social conditioning kind of thing, because it might have been in the daylight, I think. So it wouldn't have been just them who saw it. It would have been many, many people. But yeah, I thought maybe.
The other
Go
day,
on.
Debbie, I interviewed a guy, and he said that he saw on the real side that there was like an alien war going on over the top of Australia, and that's what's starting a lot of the fires. Is it's coming through the, like the firmament or whatever from the astral and lighting fires here, because it's like a real big war with all these giant spaceships. And I can't remember. I think he said some of them were like hybrid reptilians and Arcturians, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. But I don't know if I've ever been to the real side yet, because I've had some dreams, but
But
yeah,
the real
I had
is here now, Davey. You're in it. Boom. Like when the movie starts and they kind of jump off the helicopter and they're just like there on this new land. That's where you are every moment.
Right.
Even if your physical body's asleep, you're there somewhere. It's where your awareness is, where your focus is.
Just don't remember it.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember it, you do. You do. If you don't, you don't. But you're still always now. With your real awareness, you're just always now. And then on the real side, or when your physical body is asleep, you can have experiences in creation still, but you can watch your real awareness and watch what it decides, and you can be more like the observer, and then you can reflect on those experiences. But you can do it here too. You can live out your physical life while you're here, and you can go around, and it's just like being on the real side. You have cause and effect, so it's just things just happen a bit slower. It's a bit more dense here, but you walk around and you can learn to perceive here with your real awareness, and then you can reflect on the experiences you just had, whether they're with your real awareness or whether they're with the personal self. But either way, you're just always objectively viewing the experiences you're having, even in the moment. It's like, am I viewing this experience now with my personal self or with my real awareness? And what makes sense according to what I can recognize of my real awareness, and just kind of always just keep coming back to that. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing right now? What am I doing right now? And what's my purpose, and what's my intent with what I'm trying to achieve here?